Welcome to the Pat White Show. Well, it's been nearly a week since Charlie Kirk was assassinated by a 22-year-old young man by the name of Tyler Robinson. And people are saying, well, why did he do that? What's the cause of this? What was going on? Well, apparently, certain members of the media, the legacy media, are already now deciding who's to blame and who's at fault. Now, you figured, well, that would normally come from a CNN or an MSNBC. No. This one came from ABC. A spokesman, a teller of whatever on ABC said, Charlie, he was killed because Tyler Robinson was, protecting his lover. Yeah. Charlie Kirk was murdered because Tyler Robinson was, protecting his lover. That's the guy that he's involved with who's trying to become a woman. The whole story that what's going on. So that means that Tyler Robinson is not the killer. He's the victim. You heard me right. It's coming from the legacy media saying, Tyler Robinson, he's not bad. He was just protecting the one he loved, his boyfriend. Now, that came from the legacy media. And you wonder why people don't trust the legacy media anymore? When you get this sort of stuff coming out, wasn't from CNN. What you could expect? Wasn't from MSNBC. What you could expect? It's from the networks. This is what they're spouting because they have to. Because if they can't put it in their own minds or their own mouths to say Charlie Kirk was bad, he killed somebody because he was wrong, you can't say that. Can't call him a murderer. You got to call him a victim because it's the only thing that works in your mind for your side of the particular political aisle, your tribe, if you will, because we are tribes, folks, whether you like it or not. Now, there are those who are saying, well, they tried this. Well, Tyler comes from a MAGA family, Republican family. Nice try, folks. Nice try. The left, that didn't work. Turns out the mother and father said, something happened to Tyler, man. He went off the edge about a year ago, and I mean, it was big time. And they did their best to cope with it because they said, they were happy that Trump got elected. They were, MAGAs, as you like to call them. And he couldn't stand that because, he had a gay lover, whatever. So he's not a victim. He's a victim. He's not the assailant. He's not the killer. And that's what they're saying. And now we have learned, since he was arraigned, and text messages have come out where Tyler was saying, literally text his boyfriend, girlfriend, call him whatever you want. Text him and says, no, hey, I did this. I had the chance to do it. My gosh, I'm taking about you. Tyler, did you do that? Yes, I did. He admitted it in the text messages. He said, I did that. He said, oh, by the way, don't tell anybody. Don't talk to anybody. The police come. Don't say anything. So he's been charged with what? Murder. He's been charged with obstructing justice. He's got a lot of different charges. He's been arraigned, as you can see. They had to do it by TV camera because you don't want to put a guy like that in a courtroom because you got to move him around. You move around, you're going to get a Lee Harvey Oswald and a Jack Ruby situation, if you know what I mean. For those of you who don't know, look it up. It's called John F. Kennedy assassination. So, where do we stand? Well, now we stand that the left is going to say Tyler Robinson is a victim. Watch for it, folks. And he was just protecting the love of his life. An innocent man just doing what he had to do. There you go, folks. There's how we're getting ourselves set up to tribes. One person saying, this is the way it is, because making his side feel good. Everybody else is saying, no, he murdered somebody, and he's going to pay the price. But at least now you know something you didn't know. And this is why we've become tribal, folks. This is why America is going down a very, very dangerous path. Back in the early 1970s, there was a British rock band by the name of Queen. You probably heard about it. They still exist today. But back then, they had a lead singer. His name was Freddie Mercury, and he had an idea for a song. Well, it wasn't a song, it was sort of an opera, if you will. And it contained a whole lot of stuff that, well, you don't normally see in operas. But anyway, it ended up being the lead single on their album called A Night at the Opera. And this is one of those songs that lasted 6 minutes at the time, but it was a progressive rock song that actually became famous and accepted pretty much by the American public. It's been seen in movies and other places. Well, that song, Bohemian Rhapsody, well, it started out as a ballad. That's when Freddie Mercury was writing it. And then it had an operatic passage, it went to hard rock, and even had a reflective coda. But the entire concept was one song. There was no refrain, anything like that. It just started with a story and, well, went on its way. Became quite a famous thing, 6 minutes long. And but what happened recently? Recently, a group of 30 musicians, headed up by a pianist by the name of Julian Cohen, went into Paris, into a neighborhood, a square in a neighborhood, if you will. And all these 30 musicians positioned themselves in various areas in the buildings surrounding the square and even the central square, and did a remake of the original Queen song, Bohemian Rhapsody. Turns out the lead singer, Mickey Callisto, and the guitarist who did that guitar riff on there, you remember that one? That was an 11-year-old kid, did the guitar riff. Both of these kids were on Britain's Got Talent, which is sort of the British version of America's Got Talent, both on there, and it was incredible. Well, thus far, 175 million views have taken over the internet. Everybody wants to see this version of Bohemian Rhapsody because pretty much dead on. I mean, this Callisto guy sounds a lot like Freddie Mercury. Everything was almost identical, but it was done in a town square and people in buildings and things going back and forth. The tourists walking around were going, "Oh my God, look at this, look at that, look at this, look at that." Nobody saw it coming, but it's something to behold. And if you're a fan of Queen, okay, great, I get it. But if you're not, and you remember the song Bohemian Rhapsody, you have got to see this version. Frankly, it's like nothing I've ever seen. It was very entertaining, extremely well done. And I was marveling by an 11-year-old kid can lick a guitar like that. I've never seen that. You got to see it for yourself. Like I said, just go on to YouTube. You can check it out on TikTok or you can check it out on X. I saw it on YouTube. Just type in Bohemian Rhapsody Paris and it'll come up. And it is mystifying how they did this. The sound, the alliteration, the mixing of the voices, everything reminded you of the original Queen version with Freddie Mercury. But it was done by 30 people. And lead singer, Mickey Callisto, and the young man's name played the guitar, 11-year-old Ollie Pearson. And like I said, both appeared on Britain's Got Talent and apparently did pretty well. So, you're looking for something to put a smile on your face and make you go, wow. And last about 6 minutes, trust me, Bohemian Rhapsody, a remake done in a way that I've never seen, and roughly 175 million people have already seen it. You owe it to yourself. You want to see something incredible? Watch it. It's on YouTube, Bohemian Rhapsody. It's like nothing you'll ever experience. If you're one of those people who utilizes Social Security as, well, your retirement, you're probably interested in what the Social Security payment to you is going to be, well, next year, because it changes based upon what is known as a COLA. COLA means cost of living index. So how much inflation has gone on? They tell you, well, based on the amount of inflation, here's what your Social Security check is going to be. Now, the way the plan is right now, that what they do in the month of July, August, and September, they keep an eye on the CPI, the Consumer Price Index. and how much inflation that exists during that 3-month period. Now, the back in the CPI, well, earlier than that, it was averaged out about 2.8%. Now, in July, it was actually 2.9%, so 2.8% before this July, August, and September month. But a group called the Senior Citizens League, I don't know who they are, they're saying that the cost of living index, the COLA, if you will, is going to go up 2.7%. Now, what does that mean? Well, if at 2.7%, that means the average income for the retirement, the Social Security person, was about $2,008 this year. They're saying it would go up roughly $54 with that 2.7%. So next year, your monthly allotment will be $2,062. And that's, like I said, 2.7%. So that's for the average person. Now, when you started retiring and taking the money, that will determine how much money you're getting. So if someone, say, retires at the age of 62, well, their income is going to be somewhat less than a person who retires at, say, 67. Because the financial people will tell you that for every year you wait before you collect Social Security, the amount of money you get increases by 8%. So if you wait 7 years, well, it increases by 56%, right? Well, it goes up pretty substantially. But they're also guessing that if you wait till you're 67, then based on life expectancy, you're not going to be able to use a whole lot of that money. So some people say, no, I'm going to start taking it at 62, get as much money as I can when they're young, relatively young. So anyway, the plan right now is in July, August, and September, whatever the CPI is, they're guessing it's going to be about 2.7% for the increase of your Social Security check starting next year. Will it be more? Will it be less? Well, that all depends on what the CPI shows for those 3 months. But right now, the average, 2.8. The biggest question is this: will the interest rates go down? And that could happen as early as this month. How many points or parts of points could they take it down? Well, no one really knows. We could know by the end of this month if it's going to come down 0.5%. Nobody really is sure. Could it happen more than once before the end of the year? Once in September, once in November, October, whomever? No one really knows. It's up to the Fed to decide. We will find out later what the interest rate's going to be, but right now, for those of you wondering about your Social Security, it appears that it's going to be about 2.7% increase next year. For the average person, that means the check will get larger, about $54. So if you're an average Social Security recip, your check's going up about $54 next year. If everything goes like showing in the Social Security numbers and the data, the Consumer Price Index for July, August, and September. How will it turn out? Well, come September, they're going to tell us just how much your check's going to increase if you're on Social Security. Now you know. Well, if you will allow me to take you in the Wayback Machine, clear back to the year 2001. Some of you remember it. Many of you will not remember it. I happen to remember it quite well. I believe it was a Tuesday. It was a lovely September morning, driving into work about 8 o'clock, somewhere in that area. And I realized, hey, I think I left the coffee pot on. Never want to do that at my house. Drove back to my house, and I'm listening to the radio at the time, and they were saying, hey, apparently some plane had crashed into one of the World Trade Center buildings. Could have been a small plane, whatever. So I'm going back in the house, turn off the coffee maker, which, yes, I had left on. So I just turned on CNN because that was the news network I used to watch back in those days. I'm standing there watching the Twin Towers. And there's people saying, hey, an airplane had crashed into the towers and there was smoke coming out of one tower. And then suddenly I saw something. A plane, another plane, flying into and hitting the other World Trade Center tower. I watched it on TV live. On that date, September 11, 2001, 2,977 people lost their lives. And in that time thereafter, I didn't hear one person one individual in the United States of America say, great, I'm glad they're all dead. I'm glad they're dead. They deserved it. I didn't hear one. And I remember back in 1963, because I'm old, Kennedy was assassinated. And I remember watching all that. And I didn't hear anybody on TV or anyone else saying, yeah, I'm glad Kennedy was assassinated. Well, except for the people that killed him. Turns out that was part of his administration. People who didn't want him to close down the Vietnam War. That was 63. Then his brother was assassinated. And didn't hear anybody saying, yeah, thank God another Kennedy was killed. Didn't hear any of that. Ronald Reagan was shot when he was in office, almost died. Didn't hear anybody saying, hey, I wish Reagan would have died. So those are things that I remember over my life, but nothing has caused me more concern than what I saw on September of 2025, watching Charlie Kirk. Yeah, I'd seen him all times more. Probably one of the greatest debaters I think I've ever seen. And he could talk to people. He would do this thing, go to college campuses, set up a tent. Hey, prove me wrong, argue with me. And people did. Students would come down, they get the microphone, they go back and forth. Charlie had a huge following of college kids. Really loved what he did because he talked about things that are being, well, the way they are. Talked about church, about life, about God, and other things that he was able to, well, frankly, beat anybody who tried to debate him. Best debater I've ever seen. Now, here's a kid that could have went to the U.S. Air Force Academy, but decided not to. I'm going to go out there and be out there, and he started Turning Point. Turning Point USA. Well, Turning Point becomes a place where conservative people went to talk. That's what it's about, talking with somebody. Because if you can't talk to someone, well, you can't survive, really, when you think about it. So he started Turning Point USA. But there I'm sitting watching this on TV, and suddenly, out of nowhere, I see a sight I think I don't want to see again. I don't want to ever visualize it again. Charlie Kirk was shot in the neck, carotid artery, right in the most important artery in your body, frankly. Killed him. You ain't going to live when you get shot like that. Turns out somebody was shooting a Mauser rifle with a scope mounted on about 200 yards away. Took him out. Turns out that gentleman was a 22-year-old person by the name of Tyler Robinson. His father was a former police officer, like 20-some years. But Tyler had gone bad. He went to the dark side, and I mean the dark side. He was a gamer, habitual gamer. And he followed the dark web, the deep web, the bad web. He was in there. He didn't live at home. He lived with a transgender lover, guy who was going from a guy to being a girl, and that was his lover. Believe me, I don't want to go there either. But that video I saw, that vision I saw, worst thing I've ever seen. And yet, following that, suddenly we get people out there doing something I've never seen before, not from 9/11, not from JFK, not from RFK, not from Ronald Reagan. Nobody. I've seen people out there going, yay! He deserved to be killed. I mean, when you talk about somebody, you say they deserve to be politically assassinated, when an American citizen and Americans are saying that person deserved to die. That person deserved what he got. I don't think I've heard that before. Did any of those people say that when Kennedy was assassinated? I don't think so. Any of those people say that? Well, there's all sorts of people that have been killed. Did anybody say anything about any of those things? Anybody say when Reagan was shot? Oh, I'm sure there were people who said when Reagan was shot, good, I'm glad. Because we've turned into tribes, America. Not good tribes, bad tribes. You know, the Indians fought each other, whether you know it or not, in America. They battled each other to the death. That's what Indian tribes did. And now we have Americans saying another American deserves to be executed. And that's what we're saying. And you wonder why people are getting upset about it? I don't wonder why. Now, for years and years and years, people, we've had a thing called the cancel culture, right? The cancel culture? We've all heard about it. Well, you say something bad, think something bad, you are going to be canceled. Your life's going to be worth nothing. You are going to become a persona non grata, canceled. Well, now suddenly when it's happening to other folks on the other side of the fence because they were saying, hey, I'm glad an American citizen was assassinated, murdered. You're glad someone was murdered? You lose your job? And now they're coming, hey, I lost my job. It's not right. What about the First Amendment, freedom of speech? Well, what about you canceling people? Were they not allowed their freedom of speech? Can't have it both ways. So there you go, folks. There's what bothers me. There's what I have seen. I go clear back to the Kennedy era. So yeah, I'm that old. But I've seen them all. And for the first time ever, I have seen Americans standing up and saying, I'm glad that person was assassinated. The only time I ever saw that was in 2001, and the people yelling, great Americans had died, were the people in the Middle East cheering that America had suffered a massive amount of deaths, 2,977, and they were happy about it. Well, eventually America went over and said, yeah, FAFO. You know what I'm talking about. So just so you understand, what I saw Friday, September the 10th, was in many ways worse than what I saw September 11th, 2001, because it led to something that is more ugly than anything I've ever seen in this country. People saying an American citizen deserved to be assassinated, murdered. When we reach that point, folks, we have become tribal. And tribes lead to bad things, and they call it war. It may not be now, but keep it going, folks. And then you could see one side against the other, man against man, brother against brother, friend against friend, over something that really is something that shouldn't be happening at all. We're all Americans. We're all in this together. But apparently, not anymore. That's where America's gone, folks. Be ready. It ain't going to be pretty. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I come before you today to discuss a sad event, a very sad event, the death of sort of a member of our society that has passed away, if you will. It's not a person. Well, I guess you'd call it an entity, because it has been announced the death, the bankruptcy of none other than the world-famous Publishers Clearinghouse. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Remember the ads that would come out every year on TV saying, hey, enter to win. It's not going to cost you a dime. You could get this big check. We could come to your house with these huge bouquet of roses, a great big giant check, a mariachi band playing, and you could get like $5,000, $10,000 every week for the rest of your life, whatever. All these huge prizes. And remember, you'd see that commercial all the time on TV. Sign up now. And then in the mail, you would get these things. Publisher Clearinghouse, got to enter. And when you did, it's getting close. Your name has gone to a different level. Enter over and over and over again. And Publishers Clearinghouse, that was the big ad you would see every single year on TV. It was like clockwork. Well, I'm here to report a sad event. Publishers Clearinghouse has declared bankruptcy. That's right. They are closing the doors on Publishers Clearinghouse. And you've got to say, well, wait a minute. Why? Well, let's talk about what's going to happen before we talk about the why. See all those people out there that got that big check. I'm getting $5,000 a week for the rest of my life. I'm getting $10,000 a month. Whatever it is you were getting, you ain't going to get it anymore. See, Publishers Clearinghouse is bankrupt. They used to be, you go back 10, 15 years, they had hundreds of millions of dollars in their bank account. So they could run these prize things out. They could spend all this money publishing all these promotions for you to get in your mail, because the mail wasn't cheap. Well, back then it was cheap, I suppose. But they would mail all this stuff out in hopes of you doing one thing. And that one thing was to buy magazines. That's right. Publishers Clearinghouse represented magazines. And when you bought some of those magazines that they were advertising, Well, Publishers Clearinghouse got a cut of the deal. But here's what's happened. People don't buy magazines anymore. Ask yourself this big question. How many magazines do you get every single week in your home, in your apartment, or wherever you happen to live? Well, I remember we used to get a whole bunch of different magazines here at Casa de Blanco. Now we get one, People. I don't happen to read it, but the lady of the house does, and she happens to like it, so I continue to subscribe to it. But all those magazines we used to get, you know what? We don't have the time, we don't have the interest, and frankly, I'm just turning it into firewood. So, majority of people in America are saying, hey, you know what? I don't read anymore. Remember Reader's Digest? Remember that used to be the big magazine? Everybody had to have that. Gone. All these publications are gone by the fire. They have gone. They've disappeared because nobody reads them. Hey, if you want to read something now, hey, you go online, you pull up your phone, you look at what TikTok, you look at X, you look at whatever you're looking at in your app. And you read what's going on in your app while you're riding around in your car, doing whatever else you're doing at work. Hey, I'm watching my app. Well, that's what's happened, folks. So now all those people who are getting all these money every single week, getting their $5,000, $10,000, whatever it is, kiss it, adios. It be gone. Publishers Clearinghouse is bankrupt because people didn't buy magazines. No buying magazines, no cut for them, no money for you. Now you understand. So, if you wonder what happened to Publishers Clearinghouse, well, now you know. But the good news is, no more commercials of people coming to your house saying, hey, you won big money, and you stand there looking like a goober. Because most of those people did look like goobers. So Publishers Clearinghouse has been an untimely, well, maybe not untimely, maybe a timely and dedicated financial death. They're gone. Push the dirt on them. Thank you very much, and have a good day. And now you know. Well, if you buy office supplies of any sort, the chances are at one time or another you've shopped at the Office Depot. Office Depot is known for having everything involved in a business, a home business, a big business, whatever it is. They pretty much got it. You need something printed, and I've used them many times, a pretty good place. Well, there's a story going on right now about a Office Depot up in Portage, Michigan. Gentleman goes in there a few days after the assassination, the terrible assassination of Charlie Kirk, and he says, hey, I need a poster printed because in downtown Kalamazoo, Michigan, they're going to have a vigil, and I want to have this poster made for the vigil. Well, the person on duty who said they were the manager on duty when this gentleman went into the store, he said, I'm not going to print that. That's a political thing, and I'm not doing that. And the guy goes, what? No, I'm not printing that because it's a political thing and we don't do that here. Well, obviously, the gentleman involved was a bit flummoxed, if you will. So he decided to contact the headquarters of Office Depot and told him what had happened. Well, Office Depot became rather concerned, I think you would say, and they sent out this message. We are deeply concerned by the incident that occurred in store number 3382 in Portage, Michigan. The behavior displayed by our associate is completely unacceptable and insensitive, violates our company policies, and does not reflect the values we hold at Office Depot. We sincerely apologize to the customer affected and our community for this regrettable situation. Then it goes on. Upon learning of the incident, we immediately reached out to our customer to address their concerns and seek to fulfill their order to their satisfaction, which they did, by the way, and they did it for free. We also launched an immediate internal review, and as a result, the associate involved is no longer a member of our organization. They fired the associate. Really. And they completed this episode. We are committed to reinforcing training with all of our team members to ensure standards of respect, integrity, and customer service are upheld at every location. Our customers and communities deserve nothing less. So there it is, folks. Guy who goes into a business, wants to get a poster done, a picture of someone to use at a vigil. And the person there says, we ain't doing that. That's political. We're not going to do that. I don't know if that person can understand what political is. But that's the way it's going on. That's what's happening. That's the mindset. The mindset is we can tell you we're not going to do something because our tribe doesn't do that. Well, madam or mister, whoever you were, you can now rejoin your tribe as an unemployed employee. Because right now you can find another job, and I'm sure on your resume, if you decide to print it, you're going to have to put a little something in there about you got fired. And why? Well, HR might ask you. And if they do, be prepared to tell the truth or suffer the consequences.